All right, since I apparently have to walk people through the basics of logic, let's break down why Metroman didn't stop time, didn't slow time, and isn't even faster than light. That frozen world scene that people cling to is not proof of time manipulation, it's just Metroman's perception. And to explain that, we need to understand a term used in the power scaling community called flash time. Flash time is simply a speedster's subjective experience of reality. When a character like Barry Allen activates his speed, the world appears to slow down, not because time itself is being altered, but because the speedster's perception, thinking, and reactions are happening so much faster than everyone else around him. A normal person might see an event happen instantly, but to a speedster, that same event stretches into extended decision-making time. Flash time is perception, not literal time freeze. Now let's watch the scene everyone clings to and actually break it down. In this moment, we see Metroman clearly casting a shadow multiple times, which already proves he cannot be moving faster than light, because a shadow cannot exist unless light is actively being blocked by the object it's hitting. On top of that, the beam itself is still moving in Metroman's own perception. Light always moves at a constant speed in a vacuum, roughly 299,792,458 meters per second. So if the laser were truly made of light, it would move at the same speed as the sunlight. But it doesn't. The sunlight gets there first. That means the beam is slower than light. And if the beam is slower than light, then dodging it is not a faster than light feat. It's just dodging a slow weapon, not an actual light speed attack. You don't need to be faster than light to make the world appear slow. You don't even need to be close. In fact, to make someone look completely frozen from your perception, you only need to be about 6 times faster than them. That's it. That means if the average human reacts in 1 second, and you can react in 1/6 of a second or less, their actions will look painfully slow to you. So all Metroman had to do was be 6 times faster than regular humans. And boom, the world looks frozen from his point of view. Congratulations! He can speed blitz some civilians and dodge a slow laser beam. That's not FTL. That's not time stop. That's basic speed scaling logic. One of the most precise demonstrations of flash time in fiction appears in Ben 10 Season 3 in the episode The Unnaturals, where the narrative clearly juxtaposes both XL8's perception and the normal world's timing. From XL8's point of view, the baseball field appears completely motionless. Players are suspended mid-action, the ball hangs in the air, and the environment looks frozen in place. However, when the scene shifts back to the perspective of the other characters, time continues to progress normally. The players react, shout, and move in real time. They simply cannot register XL8's movements due to the disparity between their perception and his. Even when XLR8 alters the ball's position, the opposing team responds immediately in their own frame of reference. This sequence illustrates flash time perfectly. The world only appears frozen because the speedster's perception is operating at a dramatically accelerated rate, not because time itself has stopped. The direct similarity to Metroman's scene confirms that his experience is likewise perceptual rather than an indication of actual time stop or faster than light movement. Another strong example of flash time can be found in X-Men Apocalypse, specifically during Quicksilver's battle sequence before Quicksilver enters the frame. The scene is presented in normal time. Apocalypse is still moving, the environment is active, and nothing is visually or narratively implying that time has been altered. However, once the perspective shifts into Quicksilver's viewpoint, the visual language changes dramatically. Apocalypse appears, suspended in midair, fire crawls forward at an imperceptibly slow rate, and even this is not because the world has stopped. Rather, Quicksilver's perception and reaction speed are operating so far beyond that of the surrounding characters that their motions become effectively imperceptible to him. The critical moment occurs when Apocalypse begins tracking Quicksilver. His perception adapts, allowing him to see and respond to Quicksilver's movements. If time were truly frozen, this adaptation would be impossible. The fact that Apocalypse can reorient himself and physically intercept Quicksilver proves that frozen visual effect is entirely a function of the speedster's accelerated perception, not genuine time manipulation. This mirrors the structure of Metroman's scene precisely and reinforces that what we observe is a perceptual phenomena, not evidence of faster-than-light or temporal control abilities. An additional clear demonstration of flash time appears in Smallville Season 4, Episode 7, during a football game in which Clark Kent activates his super speed. With 5 seconds remaining on the scoreboard, Clark observes his friend in danger and instinctively enhances his perception. From his viewpoint, the entire field transitions into an apparent standstill. A lineman lunging toward him is frozen midair, the football is suspended along its trajectory, and even the scoreboard clock appears motionless. Importantly, this visual freeze does not reflect an alteration of time itself. Clark proceeds to run off the field, traverse the stadium, reach the locker room to intervene and protect his friend, and then return to his original position all. While those same 5 seconds are still elapsing in real time, the players, the ball, and the clock were never actually frozen. They simply appeared that way because Clark's cognitive and physical processes were functioning at a vastly accelerated rate relative to their movement. This sequence demonstrates that even characters operating far below faster than light speeds can experience the world as if it were frozen purely due to perceptual speed, directly paralleling what is shown with Metroman. A particularly instructive comparison comes from Invincible, where Omni-Man's capabilities highlight a critical distinction between actual speed and the way that speed is presented on screen. Omni-Man is consistently portrayed as operating at massively faster than light velocities, traversing continents in seconds, intercepting high-energy projectiles, and engaging in combat at relativistic and supraluminal scales. Yet despite these extraordinary feats, the series never presents the world from his personal, perceptual frame. We do not see environments frozen mid-motion, suspended dust particles, or time-dilated interactions from his perspective visual cues that would certainly appear if the narrative chose to depict how slowly the world would realistically move relative to his speed. The absence of such scenes does not suggest that Omni-Man lacks the perceptual capacity to experience flash time. Rather, it demonstrates that Invincible simply opts not to use that cinematic device. His perception, if shown, would render ordinary human movement nearly static. This underscores a crucial point. The presence or absence of a frozen world perspective is a stylistic decision, not an indicator of whether time is actually being manipulated or whether a character possesses faster-than-light capabilities. Consequently, the fact that Metroman's scene is presented through a flash time perspective does not elevate him above characters like Omni-Man, nor does it imply time stop or FTL movement TIT merely reflects a specific artistic choice. It would be unreasonable to exclude characters such as Goku, Naruto, Homelander, or Saitama from being classified as speedsters simply because their respective series never present explicit time dilation. Sequences from their point of view, all of these characters have demonstrated the ability to move, react, or fight at velocities far beyond human perception, and many of them routinely outperform projectiles, energy attacks, or opponents whose movements would appear instantaneous to ordinary observers. The absence of a frozen world visual cue in their narratives does not negate their speed. It merely reflects the stylistic choices of their respective storytelling formats. In other words, a character does not cease to be a speedster simply because the camera never adopts their perceptual frame. This principle further reinforces that Metroman's flash time style sequence is a cinematic presentation, not evidence of unique temporal abilities or faster-than-light movement. This broader understanding of speed in fiction makes it clear that perception-based sequences are not a requirement for validating a character's velocity. They are simply one of many ways a story may choose to depict superhuman speed. Some series emphasize the subjective experience of a speedster by visually slowing the world around them, while others depict speed exclusively from an external viewpoint without ever shifting into the character's perception. Both approaches remain equally valid, and neither changes the underlying capabilities of the character. This is why Metroman's scene cannot be taken as evidence of time manipulation or exceptional superiority over other speedsters. It is merely one of many stylistic interpretations of accelerated perception. The presence of a slowed or frozen world is a visual effect, not a feat, and treating it as literal time stop reflects a misunderstanding of both cinematic language and basic speed scaling principles. In conclusion, The argument that Metroman stopped time or achieved faster-than-light movement rests on a misinterpretation of a common cinematic technique rather than any demonstrable in-universe ability. When viewed through the lens of established speed scaling principles and compared to clear flash time examples from series such as Ben 10, X-Men, and Smallville, as well as characters like Omni-Man, whose speed far exceeds what is visually depicted, it becomes evident that Metroman's scene reflects accelerated perception, not literal temporal suspension or photon-breaking velocity. His shadow, the behavior of Beam, and the parallels to countless other speedsters all reinforce that no laws of physics are being violated within the narrative. Metroman is simply experiencing the world at a much faster perceptual rate than those around him, and the film chooses to illustrate this through a stylized, slowed-down viewpoint. Treating this cinematic perspective as proof of time stop or FTL movement is not only inconsistent with the evidence within the scene, but also incompatible with how fictional superhuman speed is portrayed across virtually every major franchise.